How meaningful is this shift away from aid towards trade and investment in practical terms?
I think it's very important to contextualize this particular issue of the U.S. Reorientation of its foreign policy, putting a trade on top of anything. President Donald Trump's tenure is still to be tested during the midterms that will be marked during halfway of his presidency. That is the benchmark from which we can say, are his policies really in the right direction? Is his local constituency on board with these? That we still have to see unfolding. However, we know that these are mainly aimed at restoring the dominance of the US and really putting the economics over and above everything else.
Is this policy shift genuinely new, or just old wine in new bottles?
It is not a new development. I mean, I would argue that it is in fact old wine in new bottles, because even during Mr. Trump's first presidency, it was no secret that he said he was elected by the people of the United States of America and nobody else. Therefore, his mandate lies with his fight for the United States of America, regardless of what it does for any other interlocutor that he will have to fix, will have to face. So I think it's old wine that is just now really bubbling to the surface, because also during, let's say, 20 years ago, if you look at the rise of Mr. Trump in the 80s, for instance, the 80s and the 90s, he had a lot of television time where he was interviewed by even personalities like Oprah Winfrey about his political and economic view that he, should he be one day president, would be enacting. And he's been consistent over the years. So it's not as if we are so surprised that Mr. Donald Trump is coming now with these earth-shattering new policies that nobody has heard of. The man is literally just putting into action what he's been preaching for a long time, as far as I've had the privilege of having to follow his life story.
Now, what do you think is the significance of launching the West African Investment Task Force?
I think that the important thing about this task force, this ECOWAS task force, is that it is not a new development. I mean, the ECOWAS task force is not a new development, because the tenets of which can be even traced back to 2016, for instance, that was going to be looking mainly on the economic affairs, the agricultural affairs, the free movement, or at least controlled migration between the region, and the strengthening of the common inhibitions of the region as well. That process has been in the works for quite a while, and it's only just a bubbling up of it now, as the new shifts are now taking place, and that the world is now, Africa itself has to reorientate itself with what the world economic politics have been developing as. So I think to reinvigorate these talks is a positive thing, and the fact that there needs to be a shift, there is a shift, and it is natural, because nothing stays stagnant in geopolitics, and certainly not in Africa.
Now, commentators and critics argue that the focus on trade masks deeper geopolitical goals. What's your take on that?
I would agree. I would agree with that assessment, and I would assert that it is quite a fair assessment, because look, what is economics? Economics is actually politics is actually the power which statesmen, lawmakers have at their disposal to foster their political inhibitions. Whatever it is that the country is going to take a direction of, It is money that is talking, and this is certainly not a different dynamic that is playing out. So the global political shifts are there, but also they are informed by economic interests fundamentally. The primary interest here is economics, and this is not very different from what Asia has done. The rise of China, for instance, it's rising in the past 4 decades. That is driven by economics. Africa wants the same. For instance, they want their development to be driven also by better political arrangements. The U.S. also is very much unapologetic about the fact that they want the economic reinvigoration, and it doesn't matter as to who else this will affect adversely. So the economy is actually the bottom line of all these political arrangements, I want to argue.
Right. Let me turn to Mauritania's the Mauritania's potential normalization with Israel. That was reportedly discussed. Do you see a peace for investment model emerging here?
This is also a very difficult one because now that the president of Mauritania was convinced to be engaging on this particular issue, that has been going forward and backwards over the years, over the past 10, 15 years, the whole talk of the Ibrahim Accord, the invigoration thereof. It has been a very divisive political football within the whole entire region, the Arab region, because at the end of the day, Israel, it looks like they will try as much as possible to do whatever they can in order to normalize, even though it is within an environment that is not conducive for a breakthrough right now. So Mauritania, I do not think there will be a deal coming soon there, because judging by what it's been like within the past 10 years particularly, it's been a backward and forward movement, and it's very difficult to think as to what could be offered in order to really have a breakthrough within this rounds of talks anyway, because it's only just a sideshow also of the main diplomatic talks between the US and the 5 guests from Africa. So that still has to await further developments thereof, but I do not think it is reasonable to expect anything reasonable in the short term.
Mm-hmm. Now, what sectors stand to benefit most from the U.S. investment push if it materializes?
Again, it's an issue. It's an issue of states' selfish interest, parochial interest, what they want. We know that West Africa is one of the regions that is very, very good at capitalizing on the United States education sector, for instance. They, I would imagine, would like to increase or to bargain with that continues. The easing of visas, that we know it's a very contentious thing, that now the students, particularly from Nigeria, will be subject to scrutiny, further scrutiny before they can be given visas. So there is a lot of horse trading and give and take, and at the moment is a very confusing development that we can only just rely on posterity to say, oh well, that was the game plan in retrospect. But right now, it's just there is just too much happening at the same time.
Now, how do African governments view the risk of becoming entangled in great powers rivalries between Washington and Beijing?
I think the entanglement is already underway. I think the entanglement is already underway. I like also to make an example of South Africa. The relationship with South Africa and China, for instance, now being the main or de facto representative of the African bloc on the BRICS umbrella countries, is one of the contributing factors that has put it in the crosshairs with the US and the retaliation and assaults with all sorts of allegations and economic sanction economic tariffs that are very, very punitive to the tiny economy in comparison of South Africa and other African countries. So there is a definite fighting for repositioning for Africa, but right now it's taking a little bit more of a combative nature with the ascension of Mr. Trump to the presidency of the United States. Is no longer a diplomatic thing of wooing African states for geopolitical support or economic or minerals and all the rest of it. Now it's business. It's really business, business that is unbridled, and it's um, gloves off in terms of who gets what if they affiliate who. We can see with the with the recent sitting of the BRICS countries in Brazil recently that concluded recently. Um, Mr. Trump made a threat that any country that seems to be taking the side of the BRICS and by extension the Beijing consensus will be facing the full wrath of the United States, and that just goes to telling that there is no more secret about who wants what. Mr. Trump is very brave in telling what he wants, and he wants it no later than now.